Outward.com travel tech reviews of the new Canon 60D. This is a digital SLR from Canon, relatively new model, one of their newest models. And this is kind of the mid-range camera. This model is somewhere between the new T3i entry-level DSLR and the 7D, which is a more professional version of a DSLR. We tested a Canon T2i a few months ago, and we were very impressed with the quality and the features and the handling capabilities of that camera. The 60D is a much larger body than the T2i was, and it also has a little more of the features that you would expect to find in something along the lines of a 7D. It has the LCD display on top. It has what is kind of interesting, they've put the function dial over here on the left hand side. And as I was using the camera, I found that to be a little clumsy because I'm used to it being over here on the right hand side on the T2i and even the new T3i. And so that took a little getting used to. And also you have the addition of a button that you have to push down. If you just try to turn the dial, it won't turn. So you have to push this button down to change the shooting modes. For people who travel, these videos we like to talk about how does this camera fit the needs of the typical cruise traveler or person that wants to take snapshots and travel photos. And I would say that this camera is definitely at the top end of that segment, maybe even beyond that segment. It's probably overkill for what most casual users would need. This camera would be more suited for a professional photographer that doesn't want to take their high-end camera traveling, or somebody that's looking to move into more of a semi-professional photography, and this is a great entry-level camera for that. But one thing that you will notice about the camera is it does have the articulating screen. This is very, very important, especially for those of you who like to shoot video with your camera. Now, Canon sent this camera to us with a 28-135 zoom lens, which is a very nice lens. And it has a very smooth action, and it gives a nice wide zoom range from 28-135. The camera with this lens mounted is pretty heavy. It's much, much heavier than a T2i. Even though this camera does not have the full magnesium body like you would find on a 7D, it's still a much heavier body than what you'll find on the T2i or the T3i or your other Rebel models. Those are all plastic bodies. This one is a little bit tougher. It's a little bit more durable, not quite to the level of a 7D though, which is a magnesium body. But you pay for that magnesium body. You also have a full viewfinder eyepiece through the lens viewfinder, and it's very nice. I'm just going to real quick, I'm going to run through some of the things I really like about this camera and some of the things that I'm not too crazy about. One thing I do like is when you turn the camera on with the on switch, the camera boots up very quickly. The camera has a very easy to understand menu system. If you're familiar with Canon's menus, you can very easily go through the various menus and set your different settings for setup. It is much more complicated though than you'll find with a pocket digital or a mid-range type digital camera. So you have two different ways of viewing, which are nice. This is called Live View, which lets you use the screen. And if you hit this button here, it switches to the viewfinder, which you can now shoot photos through the viewfinder, like that. And you'll hear a little click when the mirror goes into place. You want to turn the viewfinder back on, simply press that button again, and it brings up, let me open up this cap here so you can see. There we go. One of the things that I like about this camera is it has a lot of display information on the back of the camera. Now right now I am in the program auto mode, and as you, of course, if you change this dial to full auto, it's going to change what you can see in the screen. One thing I don't like about this camera is anytime I change shooting modes to a photo shooting mode, if I'm using the live view, it automatically switches me back to the viewfinder. And I find that a little bit annoying because I have to remember to go back and hit this button again to get my live view back, because I like shooting in live view quite a bit, just for convenience sake. You'll notice in the IA or intelligent auto mode, the green auto mode, you get less information back here because there's less settings that you can change. If I go back to program, you'll notice when I go back to program mode, see, it turns off my live view and I have to press the live view button again. Professional photographer may love that feature. I find it a little bit irritating. One thing that I noticed about this camera is, for me, it seems to take a while to acquire focus with the autofocus. I'm going to try to focus on this little apple on my computer. I'm going to press the button down, and when this little square turns green, the lens will be focused on that object. And I'm going to tell you as soon as I press. Now, see, that took a while to me for that to find that image and focus it. Not sure exactly if there's something I'm doing wrong, but I've used a lot of cameras and I didn't notice that issue with the T2i. One of the things I really like is the camera feels very good when you hold it. Even though it is much heavier than a T2i and it's much bulkier, it feels solid. It's very well made. The build construction, the build quality is excellent. It feels tough. It feels like it can take a little bit of abuse. Another cool feature about this camera that really helps out when you're taking cruise pictures is the automatic or electronic leveling indicator. If I hit this info button on the back and hit it again, you'll notice there is a little red line, and as I tilt the camera, if it turns green, that means the camera is being held level. This is really cool when you're trying to shoot horizons on a cruise ship and the ship may be listing to one side or another and you're having a hard time knowing if your horizon is really level in the viewfinder. That's a really cool feature. Another thing about this camera that took a little getting used to is you have a jog wheel on the back of the camera as well as one on the top of the camera for adjusting exposure and other settings. And there's also a little inner directional wheel that you press up and down, left or right. It takes a little finesse to get all that down, to know how to press these various buttons. And of course, your set button is in the middle. Button on the back, you have your info button, your menu button, and your quick menu. Quick menu is very nice because it lets you change on the fly some of the settings, depending on the mode you're in, very quickly. And what's really nice is, because of the design of the body, it's very hard to accidentally hit one of these buttons unintentionally. On the right side of the camera, you'll notice you've got the little door for your SD memory card, which goes right here. I don't have one in right now, but this is where your SD card slot is. On the bottom of the camera, you've got your battery door. On the left side of the camera, you've got a little door that opens up here, and you have access to your AV output, your HDMI output if you want to use an external high-definition monitor or television while you're shooting photos or videos. You can do that. You can also control this camera remotely from your computer. Very cool feature. And then you have a 3.5mm external microphone jack. And just to summarize, if you're looking for a really excellent high-end DSLR camera, a step up from the new T3i, a camera with a bulkier body, a little more heavier duty feel to it, and you don't mind having a heavier camera to carry around with you while you're shooting your travel images, this is an excellent choice. I think it's probably the best new camera that Canon's come out with in the DSLR range in a long time. This articulating screen alone is probably one of the best features of this camera. Highly recommend that you look for the Canon 60D. Read our review online on cruisereport.com under Travel Tech Reviews. But you know what? If you want the biggest, baddest camera on the cruise ship and be the envy of everybody there, the Canon 60D is an excellent choice.